I had the immense privilege of working for Dave Farley as a tech lead for 2 years while a company went from startup to launch. Whenever people ask me what it was like working for Dave, I have so many great stories that I can tell. And people are often surprised by my first story. Dave demoted me as tech lead back down to developer for a while, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. So, why did Dave demote me, and are there any lessons out there for other engineers? Hello, and welcome to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to do so. That way you can stay up to date with all of the cool stuff that's happening here. I'm Steve Smith, I'm Cornish, and I'm the Global Head of Modernization and Platforms at Equal Experts. I'll be your host for today. I'm afraid that Dave Farley isn't available. He's lost a bet to me, again, so I've sent him outside into the fields to grow enough saffron flowers for a kilo of saffron. LMAX is a financial technology company operating high-performance institutional FX and cryptocurrency exchanges worldwide. I worked there for 2 years under Dave Farley between 2008 and 2010 while the company went from startup to launch. I was somewhere in the first 20 employees. LMAX is known for its ultra-low latency matching engine and its high-performance institutional trading infrastructure. It's a very successful business. I had an amazing time working there, and it's all a long time ago now. There's plenty of details about LMAX online. If you want to know more, then just go find that. This is really a story about working as a tech lead under Dave, not a story about LMAX specifically. When I joined, Dave was already the head of development. We had a team that gradually grew to around 25 developers, business analysts, and testers over the 2 years. We had 100% pair programming, test-driven development, an incredible acceptance test framework that's still, I think, state-of-the-art, a 5-minute build, all trunk-based development, very frequent code commits, domain-driven design, mechanical sympathy, CI/CD pipelines, merciless refactoring. It was all there, and it was amazing. There was a relentless focus on software design that Dave instilled in every member of the development team from day one. There was a huge emphasis on domain-driven design and on refactoring. There was an all-day, everyday effort to get the domain model right in terms of bounded contexts, aggregates, and much more. In the code base, the domain model package couldn't be modified without pairing with a business analyst. It had a powerful purity that meant product features could be delivered incredibly quickly. There was a lot of refactoring. There was a big whiteboard of giant refactorings the team wanted to tackle together when there was the time. And Dave had a convention where classes or methods or tests that weren't in a good state were prefixed with evil. So you were encouraged whenever the 5-minute build was running and it was your changes in the build to watch the build, wait for your changes to go green, and in the meantime, maybe try and clean up some of that evil that was lurking. When the team reached a certain size, it was split into 2 sub-teams, and Dave asked me to be one of the 2 tech leads reporting into him. I had been a tech lead at other companies before. I had a lot of experience in pair programming, acceptance test-driven development, and build scripting. The exception for me, out of all of the LMAX practices, in terms of familiarity, was domain-driven design. I didn't have as much practical experience as some of the other people in the team. I hadn't seen a lot of it in the wild, and it was so different to how it was described in all of the books, like the Eric Evans Blue Book, which we all knew, chapter and verse. I stumbled with domain-driven design quite a few times, I think. Balancing bounded contexts versus reuse was tricky for me. I didn't always see the optimal trade-offs in terms of intentionality of coupling, cohesion, and duplication. Because we had so much pair programming, I'd always talk it over with my pair, but I was always accountable for my own design choices, and looking back, some of them could have been better. Where I really became stuck was when we built the first front end for the exchange. In 2009, before the JavaScript revolution, our choices were quickly narrowed down in front-end tech stack to Adobe Flex or Google Web Toolkit. It would be fair to say that I pushed really hard for GWT because I saw huge advantages for our development team in a Java to JavaScript compiler that would allow us to write client-side Java code and then deploy optimized JavaScript into the browser on our behalf. It was the right decision at the time, which I pushed for the wrong reason. There were right reasons that I and other GWT advocates championed. The team didn't know Flash. The team didn't know JavaScript. We couldn't hire top developers fast enough. And we were always under delivery pressure. We didn't know that the iPhone launching 2 years before would kill Flash 2 years later. My main reason, though, for GWT was a Java front end and a Java back end. The reuse possibilities were lighting up for me, and this was the wrong reason for this tool selection. I thought we'd be able to quickly churn out a first client and act on feedback from prospective traders by reusing some of our pure domain model from the back end into the front end. I'm aware now, many years later, how stupid that statement sounds out loud when I say it now in my study, and I look forward to not reading your comments about my stupidity later on.
Let me pause there and say thank you to our sponsors. We're extremely fortunate to be sponsored here by Equal Experts, Transfic, and Octopus Deploy. Equal Experts is a multinational consultancy built on applying the ideas and techniques that we talk about here to build great software for their clients. All of these companies offer products and services, though, that are very well aligned with the topics that we discuss on this channel every week. So if you're looking for excellence in continuous delivery and software engineering, do click on their links in the description below and check them out.
An example of my stupidity would be order placement logic. I remember a team meeting where we discussed sharing the order domain in the front end so we wouldn't have to remodel it or duplicate the logic. It would be fair to say that this all started to unwind a couple of weeks later as we tried to reuse the order domain logic in the front end. The client order domain was emergent. It had subtly different behaviors to the back-end order domain model, and some of them simply didn't make sense in the execution venue on the back end, which is what really mattered in all of LMAX. I felt the price we paid in terms of changes to the back-end domain model for the front end were warranted because ultimately we were carrying less code. And it would be fair to say that I was the last of the domain reuse advocates to recognize that this was a classic case of bounded context mismanagement of wrongly favoring deduplication over decoupling. A short while afterwards, Dave asked to meet me in private. He said he wants to make a change at tech lead. He said, you need to be a better tech lead. You need to have a better taste for design. And those words really stuck with me for a long time. Dave shared with me some design examples what I had done well and some what I had not done so well. And yes, order domain reuse was the big one. The way Dave handled that situation as a leader was exemplary. He was kind, not nice. He told me the truth that I needed to hear. He explained what I had done well, what I could have done differently, and encouraged me to do better. He said the door wasn't closed for me being a tech lead again in the future. It really was one of the best things that ever happened in my career because up to that point, I had been working so hard for 7 years, such long hours to climb such a high ladder, and I had never really made the time to work on a weakness, my lack of practical experience with domain-driven design. I hadn't yet understood the personal consequences of incrementally suboptimal design decisions, and I was working in an organization where software design really mattered. Dave showed me that I didn't yet have what it took to be a really successful tech lead. Afterwards, I spent time observing my successor to pick up some of the habits in domain-driven design to understand how they thought differently to me. And later on, when we went from 2 teams to 3 teams, when Dave asked me to be tech lead once again, I headed up a team that built a trade reporting gateway and a market surveillance solution. I like to think that I was a humbler tech lead and that I was better versed in domain-driven design by that time. Initially, the team built up the trade reporting gateway in a way that was very protocol heavy, but I insisted we spend time with the business analysts to really understand a domain model for trade reporting. I remember asking them to whiteboard out all the interactions between a trade and a trade report and a clearinghouse. As a team, we ended up with a much better design, and I don't believe I would have pushed for those kind of conversations in the same way a year earlier. I would always say that I owe a lot of my career in the IT industry to Dave. There were so many little lessons I learned about how to be a better leader and how to be a better engineer, and this story really encapsulates all of it for me. Dave demoting me is an example I'm always comfortable talking about because it was such a great learning experience. Software design is the foundation of any engineer's skill set, and if you can make the time to learn more about practical domain-driven design in the wild, then go for it. Next time I'm here, I'll cover another engineering topic, but first of all, Dave has to produce that saffron crop. My calculations show he'll need to grow 150,000 flowers for 1 kilo of saffron, so he'll be gone for a while, and that's good because I need him out of the way for some perfectly normal tax reasons. Thanks for watching.